Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. It's one of the things I like about this new recording program. It tells me when I'm not plugged in.
That's always a handy thing.
I should carry it around with me all the time wherever I go. And I would know whenever I wasn't plugged in.
Warning, danger.
Danger, Will Robinson. Sounds like what was that show? Travel Lost in Space.
Lost in Space with Dr. Smith, who was always screwing things up.
I bet they did a Christmas show.
Oh, I imagine so. I think everybody and their dog has done a Christmas show at some point.
Yeah, and the week between Christmas and New Year's, well, I guess that'd be next week. The show is about me and Tony talking about Christmas shows on TV.
Excellent.
But we never covered Lost in Space.
Huh.
There's so many. The theory of the show was Christmas shows that involve trains.
All right.
But Super Train never had a show around Christmas.
Right.
And then we did Petticoat Junction, and they had 2 Christmas shows.
Right. Well, they just had the Cannonball Express or the Hooterville Express, whatever.
Yeah, and there was a Christmas show, and you'll hear all about it next week.
I'll have to tune in.
Yeah. Here it is. Lost in Space Christmas episode. The first season was filmed in black and white, including this episode, Return from Outer Space. 1965.
Holy cow. All of a sudden, I feel very old.
Yeah. Will Robinson disobeys his father's order to stay clear of the alien machinery found on the family's current location. Another desolate planet. Current location. Another desolate planet. However, the young adventurous boy discovers the machine is a matter transfer unit capable of beaming him through space to return to planet Earth. Will's plan is to make the journey to Earth and contact Alpha Control at Cape Kennedy and let them know the Robinsons' family or the location. When do we get to the Christmas part? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so defying his father, Will takes the dangerous and unpredictable journey back to Earth. The young Robinson now finds himself in the small town of Hatfield, Four Corners, Vermont, at Christmas time. And somehow, so that was a Christmas episode in Lost in Space, 1965.
Wow.
Yeah, black and white.
Well, there you go. A classic. It'd be a classic then, right?
Wasn't it Billy?
Everything classic.
Wasn't it Billy Mummy? Wasn't that his name? That kid.
I think it was Billy Mummy. Yes, I believe he played the Kid Robinson.
I wonder whatever happened to him.
Oh, he's around somewhere. I was reading something about him actually not that long ago. I can't remember what it was.
Really?
Yes. As sad as it may seem, his name popped up somewhere, and I was going, how about that?
Let's see. He's an accomplished an American actor, writer, and musician, and figure of the science fiction community comic book fandom. He came to prominence in the 1960s as a child actor, which included appearances on Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, blah, blah, blah. Look at that.
Well, there you go.
He's still kicking, looking good too, and he's my age.
There you go.
He's got 2 kids.
So you too could have been a child actor.
I could have been a child actor. I could have been on Lost in Space.
Yes.
Anyways, the reason we're here today is this is I get all screwed up every year.
We're not talking about Lost in Space?
No, we're talking about Christmas though. I get screwed up every year at Christmas time because I want to do something special, and then it always ends up being too much. And so this week we have a free show on Monday and Wednesday because we talked to Joe Fugate, Shane Wilson,
okay, yeah,
Jason Schron, Tony Cook, and Gordy Robinson. And you were there for some of these.
I was there for some of them. I recall talking with Gordy and Jason, and who else was there? There was somebody else we talked to just the other night. I'm getting old.
Gordy, Jason, and Joe Fugate.
Joe Fugate, that was it. Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, the other night, like last night.
Yeah.
Like less than 24.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast today. So.
So this show is going to be Shane Wilson and that interview that obviously made a huge impact on you, Joe Fugate.
Yes, okay. I'll try to plug it up best I can now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great show. It was one of the better ones I've ever had the chance to participate in.
Actually, it was kind of interesting.
Joe's always an interesting guy.
Yeah, he's always an interesting guy. He's working like a one-armed paper hanger there, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
He's got about 4 or 5 things on the go.
He does indeed.
Anyways, that's what this show is. So we're introducing it.
Okay.
This is episode, I believe this is episode 183. And
We're
it's
getting
just
close to the big 200.
Yeah, it's just basically a Christmas. This is 183A, and then on Wednesday, 2 days from now, it'll be 183B.
Well, we're setting a precedent with A and the B shows.
Yeah, I think that'll end. That's going to come to a grinding halt.
Yeah.
Just for this Christmas. Christmas always gets me screwed up somehow, and I can say always now because it's been like 7 years.
Well, there you go.
The other thing,
at least you're consistent.
Yes, the other thing we want to cover is if you want to come at Springfield, if you want to come to the hockey game, you got to write to or the dinner. You just send an email to AML as in A Modeler's Life, amlhostess@gmail.com. And on the other end of that email will be our very own Tracy Boyd, official flight attendant of the AML network. And
Excellent.
She's keeping a list and checking it twice.
You're going to find out who's not
nice. Yeah. What's your favorite Christmas song?
My favorite Christmas song? Boy, oh boy. I'd have to go with "Oh Holy Night."
Really?
Yeah. It's the one that my mom used to like that one, and I've always liked it. And, all the other, you hear them all thousands and thousands and thousands of times. So it's like, oh my God, they're playing that song again, It's, but I'd have to go, there's a number of good versions of it out there. There's a number of bad versions out there, but I kind of like that one. But although of late, a friend got me onto the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and they're...
of course. The Trans-Siberian
Orchestra. The Trans-Siberian Orchestra and their CD, Christmas Eve and Other Stories. It is absolutely fantastic.
So it's an orchestra?
It's a band. C.W. McCall and guys like that, they formed a band called the Trans-Siberian Orchestra because why not?
Hang on a minute. C.W. McCall?
Yeah.
The guy, the convoy guy?
Yeah.
All right. Formed a band called the
Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and they've been around for quite a while. And they're kind of a metal type thing, but these Christmas things, they've got 3 of them out. And they're extremely wildly popular. And their Christmas shows, they have 2 touring groups that do Christmas shows across the North America when they can, and they're wildly popular. And they've played thousands of Christmas shows. And a friend of mine who's a metal guy, and he's gone to see them a few times in Toronto. He says they're absolutely great. It's a 2.5-hour show, and he says it's fantastic.
It's an American rock band founded in 1996 by producer, composer, and lyricist Paul O'Neill, who brought together John, Olivia, Al Petrie. And I don't see any mention of C.W. McCall in here.
Somebody said C.W. McCall, but maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
Or maybe he produced them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was in 1996 when they were formed.
Yeah.
So, and I don't even know how long is C.W. McCall even alive?
There's a good question I'll effort.
Yeah, effort that question because I've efforted the last question. C.W. McCall, Breaker 19.
He died. Apparently.
So I don't think he was involved with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. His real name was William Dale Fries. There you go.
Well, no, maybe he's still alive. No, he's still kicking.
Oh, so why did you say he died?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought I was reading some that thought they said, but no, he's 95.
95.
He's 95.
He was the mayor of Ouray, Ouray, Colorado.
Ouray
from 19.
That's on the narrow gauge.
Oh, okay.
Or was on the narrow gauge.
He was in office from 1986 to 1992.
Oh, there you go.
This is the mayor of Ouray. Hooray! So is it a real town? Yeah, it's a real city.
Yeah, it is so.
Population of 1,000.
Yeah.
Nicknamed Switzerland of America. We've covered a lot of ground here in this.
We have indeed.
I think we've covered enough ground. We've. That's the great thing about podcasting. I mean, man, you can just start talking, and whatever.
15 minutes later, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 10 minutes, 11 minutes. Okay, let's kick this puppy off, would you?
Subway chimes, go.
Okay, now I'm here with Shane Wilson, the president and CEO of ScaleTrains.com. Is it ScaleTrains.com or is it Scale Trains?
That's a great question, Lionel. Well, first, thanks for having me and Scale Trains. So the official company name legally is ScaleTrains.com, Inc., but with the transition to the new website, we've dropped the .com and we're just going with Scale Trains now.
Oh, okay. So officially, so it's Scale Trains. I like that. It's yeah, that's cool. So anyways, Shane, Mr. Wilson, here's a...
Oh, no, not Shane. I'm old enough without being called Mr.
Yeah. Shane, brother Shane. There used to be a disc jockey in Buffalo, New York. Shane, I don't remember what his last name was, but come on, it's Shane, brother Shane. And every time I think of you, that's what I think. Anyways, this is the last Monday before Christmas. I believe it's like December the 21st. I should know because it's the actual day that we're talking. Hang on, let me get it. It's December the 20th. So anyways, what I'm doing is
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. It's coming up in 4 days. I hope you like what I got you.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's the same as last year, only a different color.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is I'm talking to a few people in the hobby, a few significant some of the movers and shakers of the hobby. I talked to Tony Cook of Model Railroad News, and I'm going to talk to our buddy Dave Ableys, and I think I'm going to talk to Jason Schron, and I thought I'd like to talk to you because I'd like to get your opinion on the state of the hobby. I call it the State of the Union or the State of the Hobby. Every year I do that, and I'm interested in what you think the hobby's doing and how it's going and where we're going and all those sorts of things. So let me ask you a question. An obvious question. The pandemic, is it just about knock the stuffing out of you?
Well, like all of us, I think we're all tired and ready for it to be over. But from a business perspective, it's been an incredible almost 2 years now.
Yeah, so it's been busy. It's been busier, like you say, incredible. So can you keep up with this demand for supply? Like, can you keep up with the product?
That's one of the big challenges. We utilize pre-orders, and we take pre-orders to kind of give us an idea of the interest level from customers, and then we always order more above that quantity. Well, how much more really depends on, kind of an example. Undecorated models. We might get 5 pre-orders for an undecorated, so we'll order 6 pieces. But then you might have something that you get hundreds of pre-orders for, so you might order hundreds of extras. That's where that kind of balance comes in. One of the challenges that we've had is demand has been well beyond what we would have ever dreamed of. And so you make adjustments to your purchases, but you don't see the effect of that for about 12 months. So if we placed a PO today, we won't see that product until the end of 22. And the question becomes, how long does this wave ride? And we've ratcheted up our orders, but we're still being cautious. And our philosophy is, I think, a little bit different than other manufacturers. We would rather sell out shortly after delivery and make more. So if a product sells well, we'll just make more road numbers, or we'll do a rerun and we'll just come back with more. Because we'd much rather put the profits in developing all new products than having profits sitting in inventory on the shelf that's not selling.
Okay, and you guys, I remember when I first interviewed you, I think it was one of the first times I interviewed you was at the Chicago RPM meet, and a long time ago, and I remember then, I was new to it, and not much has changed. I'm still new to doing podcasting. Everybody can tell I haven't improved, but, so that was one thing. That's one thing I've always been, it seems like some manufacturers, once they do a run of something, that's it. We're done, we're finished. Whereas you guys don't seem to be opposed to, okay, so locomotive X was popular, we sold out of it. Yeah, let's do a bunch more. Like that just seems to be kind of a natural thing for you guys. Like it's not really hard for you guys to be convinced to run a certain product again.
Yeah, for instance, we just got a shipment of SD40-2s in, and I think this is now our second run of SpongeBob's. I think it might be our third run of Admiral Cabs, our second run of Santa Fe Snoots. We're not afraid to come back and make more road numbers because as a manufacturer, quite honestly, where you make your most profit is when you're rerunning something you've already done and just changing the road numbers. So that profitability, then you can turn around and invest in the company and new projects or whatever that might be.
Yeah, right. And even if you do a new paint scheme on the same tooling, that's probably not that big of a deal if to change a paint scheme.
Paint schemes are pretty easy, but the challenge is today, as we've got to railroad road number error specific details, features often change.
Okay.
And it's the features that even, people think that it's pretty easy, right? But like an SD40-2, you might have chicken wire or corrugated radiator grills. Well, you got to account for that in your tooling, which that's pretty common. But when you start to get into unique things like a Norfolk Southern MU stand that was applied to locomotives right after the transition from NNW to NS, that's when you start really racking up the tooling dollars.
I think I have a really good question. I think this might be a really good question. Just feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But
all right.
Always feel free to correct me when I'm wrong. It's the only way we get the right answers. So your history is that you worked for Horizon and ran the Athearn. Like you ran the Athearn division of Horizon, right? Or worked at?
No, I was the marketing manager for Athearn. I also worked with the sales department, wholesale sales, for quite a few years, and with Athearn to promote model trains at Horizon.
Okay. So were you working for Horizon or were you working for Athearn?
Technically, I was an employee of Horizon, but when I was the marketing manager, I worked with Athearn every day.
Okay, I gotcha. So all right. So back then, so what are we talking about? 30 years ago in the 90s? Well, I don't know. Like, how old are you now? 75?
Oh my goodness, 52, and I was at Horizon for 23 years.
You might want to see a doctor then. So that's not that far off. It's what 30 years ago you were. So you started with Horizon. So okay, let's say back in the late 90s, around the turn of the century, you were well entrenched with Athearn. Well, I'm just trying. Yep. We have a very limited. What do you call it? We have a very limited staff of researchers. It's me, and I'm not that interested in researching. So,
I just found turn of the century kind of funny. That
yeah, I know.
I've
started to say that lately because it's the easiest way to refer to around the early 2000s, around the turn of the century, the late 90s, the early 2000s, because believe it or not, that was 20 years ago.
Oh my goodness!
I know. 22. I can remember when I first got married in the early 80s. I would talk to my dad he would talk about something that happened in the late 50s and the early 60s, and I think it was 1,000,000 years ago. And of course, like my dad was a World War II guy, and in the late 50s, he'd only been away from World War II for like 10 plus years.
That's incredible, isn't it, when you think of that way?
Yeah. And he went when he was just turned 18. By the time he was 23, he had served overseas for almost 5 years. And by the time he returned home at the age of 23, can you imagine the amount of life experience that guy had at the age of 20? That's
incredible.
It is. It really, truly is. So anyways, when you were with, I think maybe this isn't going to be a good question after all because it's taking too long to explain it. But I'm thinking to myself in the late 90s when you were working with Athearn and the models were not nearly what they are today, is it frustrating nowadays because you want to say rerun the SD40-2s and you're thinking, hey, what about this paint scheme? But then you realize, okay, the grill is different or this is different. So it's not nearly as easy to reproduce a railroad specific or number specific model. Is that frustrating? Like on the one hand, you've created spectacular models that everybody oohs and ahs over, but on the other hand, it kind of restricts you from easily manufacturing certain things. Did that make sense? Did that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really I'll give you a great example of how frustrating it is. We worked with Watco on their Wisconsin Southern 40th anniversary SD40-2. and Watco ordered some in the operator brand to give to their employees and customers, and we really wanted to do it in the rivet counter brand. But the problem was, is you looked at that locomotive over the course of its life. Today, for instance, normally the sand filler hatch is on the top of the rear of the long hood. Well, they took and they moved that down to the center part of the rear long hood, and then they ground off the top where it would be, and it's totally flush. And then they came up with these really unique ditch lights, which are folded over diamond plate that sit on the deck. And it's like, how would you ever make that? And then how would you ever light it? And excuse me. So here's a product that we know we could sell a ton of, but in keeping with the rivet counter promise, it's got to be prototypically correct. There's no way we can do this model. And you know that you're giving up a tremendous amount of profit because you can't do that locomotive. And that's profit you could pay your bills or invest in the future. But that's the nature of the beast today. And the first thing people say is, well, why don't you make generic models? And we do in the operator brand, and people don't want them for the most part. There are a few, but 90% of our sales are rivet counter.
Really?
And the 10%, yeah, oh yeah. And the less than 10% that's operator, I mean, it's not even enough to sustain the brand.
Holy mackerel. Because you have the three levels. You have operator, rivet counter, and then the museum. What do you call a museum quality one?
Museum quality. And then we also have Kit Classics at the bottom end too.
What do you call that museum quality one? Museum quality.
Yeah.
And then you have two. And below operator you have the. So rivet counter is your number one sales branch.
Far and away.
Okay. So have you given any thought to just giving up on operator or anything, or is it still worthwhile to do it? Or
I think the brand is going to morph a little bit. We had some pretty big discussions when I was in California in November about what the plan is for operator, and I think it's going to morph. We haven't given up on it yet, but we've definitely got to make some changes because sales have got to increase. And when I say that too, I will put a qualifier in there. Freight cars do okay, but locomotives are just terrible.
Yeah. People absolutely want their locomotives to be accurate. So now my question is, are you the models you're turning out are spectacular, as are some, and so are you glad that the industry is this way, and this is that's really what Scale Train started out to be anyways, was the rivet counter brand. Really was that's where you wanted to be. You wanted to produce. I can remember having discussions with you in the early days. That's what you wanted. You wanted to produce models that were, jaw-dropping models that everybody would want. And so really, the brand that you wanted to sell, these rivet counters, that's really where you were headed anyways, isn't it?
It is, but we wanted to have product for every skill level and every price point because we always hear, what about people that are on a budget? But people even on a budget tend to they might not have the breadth, but they definitely want the quality and the detail.
Well, and my argument has always been, it's a hobby. It's no different than if you want to go see, the Rolling Stones. It's going to cost you what it costs you. You know, if you want to have a Harley Davidson, it's going to cost you what it costs you. If it's like, no matter what, it's your hobby. If you want to be a golfer, you can easily drop $600 on a golf club without trying hard. So, a rivet counter SD40-2 is going to be almost half the cost of the newest driver in golf. It's a hobby. And
that's right.
Most golf courses cost you $100 plus to go play if you're into that particular hobby. So let me ask you, go ahead.
Well, I was going to go back to your question, though. For me as a modeler, rivet counter is exactly where I want to be because that's the product that I want for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see then what happens with your operator and your lower levels because it's kind of also, it should be stated that you guys enjoy the challenge of trying to figure out which direction to take the company. You always strike me as somebody that, yes, you'd like it all to run smooth. Everybody would, but you also enjoy the challenges that crop up day after day with trying to run a company of your quality.
Well, you're familiar with the road trip. I think I drive my wife nuts because we'll be driving along the road, and I'll be like, "Hey, write this down for me," and I'll have her take a note because I'm like, I don't want to forget this because I'm always thinking, I'm always trying to, come up with new ideas or new ways to do things or things that'll make our business better or whatever it might be, and I'm always thinking, and It's funny. I drive her nuts. She's like, okay, I'll write it down.
Well, it's funny. While you were going through New Mexico, I was riding with a buddy of mine. We were in my car, and we were following. And we actually were following you for about 10 miles, and there was smoke coming from your unit. And my buddy says, we got to pull these guys. We got to follow these guys to the next gas station. Tell them their brakes are locked or something. I said, no, that's just Shaney's thinking.
That's true. Hurting brain cells.
Yeah. That was a long ways to go for that punchline. Let's see. So my last question is, so what do you think? What is your take on this? Like when I was talking to Tony Cook, he was like, he does the Model Railroad News is 100 pages long. They can't really increase the size of the magazine, the monthly magazine, and because of costs of shipping and what have you. But he says he cannot get all the products into the magazine every month that he wants to get into. And I said to him, what do you think about, do you think this wave, me personally, I think there will be somewhat of a dip after the pandemic is over, but I think basically we have awoken such a huge marketplace of people that, even people that were fringe model railroaders, and they had time to look into it. I don't see the hobby, it's going to slide back a little bit, but I don't think it'll go back to pre-pandemic levels. What's your thought on that?
I agree. It's one of those things. It's where you're traveling along at one level, and then you go way up to this other level, and then it's going to come down some. But I don't think it'll go all the way back. We talk a lot about, Lionel, you and I both have talked a ton about the connections that people make on social media, and how that helps people feel a part of something much bigger. And I think those connections are what help people encourage each other and drive that passion, fuel that passion to do more, to get better at being a modeler. So I think that while the overall, and I don't want to downplay this by any stretch, it's been a horrible couple of years for a lot of people on a personal level. I do think that we will come out of this honestly much stronger and much healthier.
I know. I hate talking about it. I actually don't, because I always feel like, hey, that's great. Hey, the hobby's really taken advantage of this. The hobby's really been the winner in this whole pandemic thing. But then you don't really want to be a winner with something that's created so much suffering and unhappiness for so many people.
Absolutely. That's why I wanted that. When I say that, I temper that, because a lot of folks have lost loved ones or have been sick or had COVID or whatever that might be, and don't want to diminish for one moment what they've gone through, because it's not, some people have gone through tremendous sacrifice, and so we have to respect that and understand that as we talk about the business side.
Right. Okay. So as we wrap this up, you're very optimistic about the future of model railroading.
I am extremely optimistic from what we've learned on the road trip, and taken away from that, and the things that it'll do for our business and just the hobby as a whole. I think folks are really positive about the new products that are coming to market, about the ability to model and having that. And a lot of folks that, there's been more done on model railroads probably in the last 2 years than Lord knows how long. And I think that'll continue.
Perfect. I think we should exchange I lost your cell number, so I think we should exchange them again so that I can constantly update you on where I am and what I'm doing. Because I think that would really add to your day, don't you?
I do. I would look forward to a Lionel text every day.
All right, Shane. Well, it's cool. It's always cool talking to you. I look forward to the new year. I look forward to the future with Scale Trains. I love being part of your little I love the fact that we started that road trip thing, and there's another one coming up, I think, on January the 10th. And I think I'm going to catch up with you in Florida this winter on the road trip.
Would love that.
I would love that too. Are you kidding? I think that'd be a ball. I'm looking forward to that. And
I'll even buy dinner.
There you go. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're starting to make some inroads into the important things of life. Yeah, congratulations and keep on going. And I look forward to the next road trip podcast. And it's just fun.
Well, Lionel,
go ahead.
I just want to say thank you for having us. I really appreciate spending time with you and having a chance to visit with your listeners.
Yeah, Yeah. It's and the fact that I always feel like I can ask you any question, and I never feel like you're going to be insulted by any question. You may not want to answer some questions because it's an industry thing, but I've never felt like there wasn't a question that I couldn't ask you, which I always appreciated.
No, you're welcome. I'm happy to answer. And if I can't answer a question, I'll let you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we've always done.
Yep.
I bet you by now, since the first time we interviewed, I bet you we've probably done 10 or 12 hours of interviewing.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. Yeah, probably more.
Probably, yeah. Do you think, what's your friend's name in Charlotte there?
Talk about Todd?
Todd Arnett.
Yep.
Do you think he'll ever forgive me for not showing up to that convention? That's
funny.
I know. I was getting ready to talk to you today, and Todd Arnett's name popped into my head, and I'm thinking, I can imagine the next time I talk to him, I'll be apologizing again, and he'll be saying, like, forget it, buddy, it's over. And I'm thinking, I will never forget the fact that I showed up a week early for his convention.
Todd's an easygoing guy.
I know. He is an easygoing guy, but I'm not an easygoing guy on myself. All right, that's it. We got to go. We got to talk to somebody else. I love talking to you. I'll see you later. Drive carefully. And for God's sakes, when you pull into New Mexico, make sure you got all your permits in order.
Amen. Hey, Merry Christmas, Lionel. Yes. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, buddy. I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
All right, take care.
See ya.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you care about the video, or is this?
No, we don't do video. We don't do video. We don't want to see you. You don't want to see me. We don't.
We tried video and it didn't go so well.
Yeah. You don't want to look at us.
Oh my gosh! Now you made me big. Oh.
Just hit the little camera button there at the bottom, and you can turn yourself. There you go. See, now we don't have to look at it. None of us have to look at each other.
Okay,
and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, we don't want to look at each. What happened to the headset I sent you a long time ago? Where's that? You don't have a headset for your laptop for doing these podcasts, just so you can sound as good as you possibly can?
You talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. Bruce has got his.
Okay.
Yeah, Bruce has got a headset. Oh, look at that!
I got this microphone thing and some headphones.
Wow, look at you go, Bruce. Hey, you know what's the scary part, Bruce?
What's that?
We have the exact same equipment now. I was thinking that as I was putting on my headphones, because you so lovingly sent me these headsets. What do you call them? Headphones.
Headphones.
And you got the same microphone as me. So we look. If we wore the same hat, we'd be like twins.
We would like the Bobbsey twins.
Hey, you know what? I got a really great idea. Sorry, Joe. Just hang on a minute. We got to do some inside office business there.
Okay.
All right. But you'll be interested in this. You know what I thought would be a great idea, Bruce?
I have no idea because you have so many of them.
Well, thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say that. Well, we both know our friend Lex Parker, modeler extraordinaire.
Yes.
And his beautiful layout. What does he call it? What does he call that layout?
It's the Denver and Rio Grande Southern.
It's an ON3.
In 0-3, yes.
Absolutely gorgeous. And Lex Parker is he's a master model railroader, and he's an exquisite modeler. He's an artist.
Oh, he is. So yeah, he does all. He's a graphics designer, I believe, by profession or interior designer, something like that.
Yeah.
So, but he's an all around great artist and modeler. He's unbelievable,
and he's been very kind to us over the years.
Yes.
So, anyways, he's unfortunately taking his layout down.
Yes.
It's come to that time where he's going to take his layout down and move to a bit smaller home. Yep. And you know what I thought would be a great idea?
What's that?
If you and I took the portable recording studio, went down to visit him, and did a interview with him right there in the house beside the layout.
That'd be beautiful.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually kind of already asked him if we could do that.
And?
Oh, he's all for it.
Good.
I just hadn't told
him. He's talking about starting to take it down in January. I guess he had his last open house just a few days ago.
Had his last open house, yeah. And did you get an email there, Joe?
I got something.
All right, so Joe, this is our annual State of the Hobby interview with you. We've been doing it with you. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we started this in December of 1963.
Wasn't it 1964?
Oh yeah, that's right. You're right. I think you're right. You know what? I think you're right.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
been a while anyway.
it's been a long time we've been doing
It's so long ago, the memories are a little blurry.
Yeah, the memories are blurry. So, Joe Fugate, we're here with Joe Fugate, who is the editor of Model Railroad Hobbyist, the greatest online magazine in model railroading ever produced. And how's it going, Joe? Are you like me? Are you still waiting because at the end of 2020, everybody was excited that the pandemic was going to be over.
Right.
And so I'm still waiting for 2021 to start.
Yeah, I think the same thing here. Well, we did this last year, right? So I probably talked about the effect of the pandemic on us last year. So I won't go into that in any great detail this year. But 2021 has been okay, but not great. And that's because I think people are still cautious about, what they're doing in the hobby. One of the things that I often tell the staff is that if you look at the hobby, there's what I call 3 tiers of stuff that people want to get for the hobby. The first tier is the stuff that really is the core of the hobby, and that's track, locomotives, rolling stock, and stuff to make the trains go. So decoders, your control system, DCC system, or throttle. So that's the core of the hobby, and that's where people will spend the most money too, is on the core of the hobby. Then we move to what I call the second tier, which is to make it look cool, to make it look nice. And that's, you're getting into structures and scenery and figures and detail parts and, paints and weathering materials and all of that sort of stuff. That's to make it look nice. And people will spend less money on that stuff. They tend, basically the way it works is they buy the core stuff, and then what's left over they spend on the other stuff to make it look nice. But the core stuff gets the lion's share of the budget usually. And then the third tier is information about how to do the hobby. So that's videos, how-to information, magazines, books, that sort of thing. That's the third tier. And those people are very selective about what they spend their money on. And so one of the advantages with MRH, looks like somebody's trying to call me here.
Oh, geez, now you're getting a call.
I better answer this, so hang on.
All right, if it's Hollywood calling for me, just take a message.
This is Les almost calling me. So Les, this is Joe.
Probably we should put in elevator music here, Bruce.
I'm thinking this would be a good spot for elevator music.
Okay, so that's some housekeeping.
That was Les Elmos. That was Les Elmos, your number one sales guy.
Yes.
You know what I always say, Joe. Less is more.
Yes, I agree with that. So we were talking about the 3 tiers of the hobby, and one of the things that gives MRH a real advantage is the fact that we're free, and so that means that people know they need information about how to do the hobby, but they can be almost a bit of a Scrooge when it comes to spending money on how-to information for the hobby. They're very selective, and it gets the leftovers from all the other things, tier 2 and tier 1 products. So, and I get that. I'm not begrudging that. I do that myself, so it's just the way it is, the way it works. And so just being aware of that can be helpful.
So then people haven't been buying the paid version of the online magazine?
No, people aren't buying the paid stuff like they used to. Used to we would do, pre COVID, we would run a sale and we'd always get a fantastic response. Now it's okay to pretty nice, but it's never fantastic like it used to be.
Right. And this is this for the books or just mostly for the magazine? What are the two tiers? There's remind us again what the two tiers are of model railroad hobbyist.
Okay, the modeling tiers, there's three. First tier is what I call the core stuff. And that's, the trains and stuff to make the trains go. And then tier 2 is the stuff to make the trains look pretty.
Right.
And so that's scenery and structures, basically. And then tier 3 is how-to information about how to do the hobby and how to do the hobby better. And people are very selective.
So,
tier 3.
So you have a free version of Model Railroad Hobbyist, and then for running extra is $2.90 per month. Is $2.99? Is it?
It's $2.99 for single issues, but we have you can spend $29.99 if you're never been a subscriber. You can spend $29.99, and you'll get the next 12 issues plus you get all 36 back issues.
Oh, okay.
As well,
so you get access.
So
you get access to every single issue that's been printed for running extra.
That's ever been produced. And so if you do the math, it comes out like 60 cents an issue or some crazy thing when you look at that pricing. When was the last time you bought a magazine for 60 cents?
Well, exactly.
A new magazine.
A new magazine for 60 cents. And how many pages is running extra usually?
Running extra is right at, we aim for 100 pages. Some issues are a little smaller, but, maybe 88 pages or something. And some issues are more, 110 pages. But we aim for around 100 pages. The other thing I do is I try to get at least 7 to 8 separate articles in running extra. And there's no ads in there. So that's, that 100 pages, give or take, is packed with content. And in MRH, has about 30 pages of ads. So, if you get a 150-page magazine, 30 of those pages are ads.
Right.
And so,
but really every month you're producing like 200 pages of editorial text.
We're doing 200 pages. Just if people get running extra, they get MRH, the free stuff in the back.
Right. Holy mackerel.
So one download gets it all.
That must be
it is certainly a well done publication. I subscribe to it.
Well, thank you.
There's always something interesting, and even though you talk about the ads in your in the MRH part, there's some great information in some of those ads you get on. Like there's some suppliers that I never knew existed. You click on and go, wow, if I only known that X years ago.
I know, eh? I mean, the magazine is still top notch. I mean, how many people are there doing? Is it just you and your wife doing most of the heavy lifting?
We have an editorial staff.
Okay.
They're part-time. We have an assistant editor, and we have a copy editor.
Right.
And then we have 2 news guys who also assist with the copy editing of the entire magazine as well.
Right.
So, and then there's Patty and me. So there's 6 of us all together.
Right.
Patty does the paste up, most of it, and I do the final magazine assembly. But basically what I do is I pick what's going to go into the magazine each month.
Right.
And then Patty goes through and takes all the submissions and she standardizes them. Makes them all makes the format the same. So basically what that means is she's going through the Word doc and doing some initial work to standardize them, to make them consistent. And then, but she doesn't really do copy editing, but she's mainly doing some initial formatting. Usually people send a Word doc. So then the Word doc goes to copy editor, and we have the assistant editor and the copy editor, and they go through the articles, and often they'll rewrite parts of the articles to make things more clear. They make the final decision on what photos to use, because people sometimes, we'll have a how-to article and people will send us 100 photos, which is great. I like to have lots of photos, but then the editors will go through and boil it down to 20 photos that really show the steps. And then they'll make sure every photo has a caption and write a good caption, and then edit for consistency. When like exacto, is it capital X dash ACTO, or is it all little x, no dash, ACTO? Dull code, is it DULLCOAT? Is it DULLCOTE, all one word? All of those sort of things. Boxcar, is it BOX space CAR, or is it BOX CAR? So
MRHmag.com. Is it MRH/mag.com, or is it just MRHmag.com? There you go. It's endless. So I'm looking at the page now, and it's like, so it's you, and then James Regier is the assistant editor, and your wife Patty, and then Richard Bale, and Jeff Schultz, who's a AML regular. He's always commenting on the fans page and stuff like that. And Mike Dodd is copy editor, and then you got Les Elmos is an account manager, and John Francois, his buddy John there, and Eric Hansman. I forgot about that Eric Hansman is a contributing editor. And I forgot all about that. And Jim Six, he's got his regular limited modeler column, and our buddy Ken the Dude Patterson is the reporter at large. Ken got divorced, eh?
Yes.
He's been talking about that a lot, so I thought I'd throw that in. Then you got your rotating columnists. You got on this Getting Real column, you got Jack Burgess, Marty McGurk, Nick Muff, Mike Rose, Tony Thompson. Man, there's a hard hitting list there, and Rob Clark and Dave Meek. Man, you got a ton of people working on this magazine. Okay, so all right, so then let me ask you, how do you see the future of the hobby? Because it doesn't sound like it sounds like it's okay over there at the old MRH headquarters, but it's not as good as it was. Is that a fair statement?
Yes and no.
Okay.
One of the things that I see that's been really different in 2021 is there still hasn't been a lot of shows yet.
No, there's not.
The shows haven't really come back. So There's been a few, but not a lot. And the NMRA convention in Santa Clara was canceled.
Yeah.
And then they did a virtual convention, which absolutely blew me away. I attended that virtual NMRA convention, and I was impressed like crazy. They used meeting rooms. They used Zoom and different rooms that you could go and join. It was pretty amazing. It was easier to find somebody and connect with them and have a conversation than it is an in-person convention.
Really?
Yes.
So that turned out pretty good then, eh?
Yeah. So there was, like, for instance, one of the things I've been wanting to do was connect with some people and get some more insight about how to do semaphore signals. And I was finally able to connect with them through this virtual convention and have a conversation and figure out what I needed to do for my semaphore signals. For the last 3 years, I've been trying to track people down at these in-person conventions to get the answer. And I finally got the answer because I could get everybody together in a breakout room, and we had the conversation. And finally, I got my answer.
So you'd almost have to think that the new world technology, the online technology and social media is a plus for the hobby.
Yes, it is. And our website traffic is at all-time record levels.
Really?
Yeah, because people are bored, right? They're
good point.
Yeah.
Locked in, locked down, all of these sort of things.
Yeah, you can only watch so many hours of Russian car crashes on YouTube.
Well, speak for yourself, Bruce.
So there's a silver lining in this cloud, basically. Trainmasters TV has been struggling, though, for the last basically since 2020, early 2020, because we can't have studio segments.
Right.
And people, for some reason, if I call up a guy and say, hey, I'd like to come visit your layout and bring a bunch of strangers into your basement for a day, for some reason, they don't want that. I can't figure out why. And so I get a lot of no's when it comes to
Really?
trying to come visit somebody to visit their layout. Or if I do come visit, they'll say, well, you got to wear a mask, and go in the training room. Everybody's got to wear a mask, and so how does that work? Trying to interview a guy through a mask?
Yeah, I insist whenever anybody's in the studio, we all wear masks. I'm surprised you're wearing that Richard Nixon mask, but whatever. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah. So it basically we've tried to retool Trainmasters TV to do virtual.
Oh yeah, how's that going?
And it's been a bit of a struggle because we have to find the proper technology. You can very easily get in a conference call kind of situation like we're doing here, for instance, for this podcast. But the audio will kind of cut in and out sometimes. If you try to do video, it's even worse because then, people will do the max headroom sort of thing where they freeze up and it gets jerky, and it'll pixelate.
Sure.
So, I want the best possible quality that I can for Trainmasters TV. So what we've done is come up with actually having the hosts all record locally when they get on the Zoom call. And then whoever the guest is, I send them some video equipment. And then they have to get up to speed on the video equipment. And then we will record them. I even talked to you about maybe getting you on something.
Yeah, but all I do is host. I don't do anything else other than host. I'll host a video for you. I'll be on with whoever, and I'll host. But that's it, man. That's all I'm doing. You find the people. I'll host them.
Yeah. Well, I think we talked with you about maybe doing some vendors. So I'll have to see what I can do there. But yeah, it takes a while to spin all that up.
Well, sure. Yeah.
We got Rick Green going, and that's worked out pretty good. And I started with some local people because I can actually drive over there to their house with the camera equipment.
Right. Yeah.
And set it up. I did another person who didn't want anybody visiting them, but who still lives local. And we met in a parking lot, and I gave him the camera equipment and gave him the instructions on how to, I had to put some instructions together for him on how to use it. And so I'm using him as training wheels to teach me how to build the material so that I can help someone remotely. Because, now the next step is to find somebody in, I'm in Portland, Oregon, basically. Find somebody in Vermont who wants to be a guest, and I'll mail them the equipment and the how-to content. It's basically a little how-to video, how to set it all up and configure everything. So yeah, we're trying to spin this up, but to do that, I want people to have the local. They need camera and audio, and if it's a guest, I want two cameras because if you're going to demo something, I want the camera on you,
right?
Look, shooting across the desk at your face, so we get that view, and then I want a camera on the desk that points down at the desk top,
right?
So we can get an overhead view, and basically, if you're, weathering a structure wall or something, I want to be able to see. And so we need a close camera that can be overhead. So trying to get that all worked out, and then also wire you up because I want a lav mic so we get good audio.
Right.
So there's a lot involved.
Are you wearing a lav mic now?
I am not, no.
Well, don't you think the podcast wants good audio? You see what he's doing here, Bruce. He's trying to make the podcast not seem as good as
trying to make us look bad.
That's what it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, we can hear you pretty darn good, so that's working out well.
Well, that's the thing. I've used this laptop enough that I know the audio's pretty decent.
Right.
So I wouldn't.
You haven't been on other podcasts, have you?
I don't think I've been on any other podcasts,
okay.
although I do use this same laptop when I do our Train Masters. We do have a live session we do
Oh,
called
do you?
MRH QAT, which is questions, answers, and tips.
Oh.
And I do it on Zoom, and I use this laptop
When do you do that?
every month.
What, like just like constantly for the whole month, or is there like a specific day?
No, I will schedule it in advance, and we'll usually have somebody from the MRH staff that's a guest. So, like the most recent session we had was with Jim Six, who's the columnist, does Limited Modeler and Running Extra.
Right.
So we had him on, and he talked about his weathering techniques.
So how would somebody find out when these are the MRH QAT? Now, is that MRH QAT or is it just MRH QAT?
It's MRH space QAT.
Okay.
I post the invites to the live session on the Train Masters TV site.
Okay. And you should. Well, how come you don't want to put them on the MRH site as well?
Well, what I do is I put them on the MRH Facebook feed and the Train Masters TV Facebook feed.
Okay.
I also post the invites on the MRH forum too.
Man, you got a lot of stuff doing. I have enough trouble doing this podcast. I can't even imagine. Remember, Bruce, when we were interviewing Chris Palmieri, the Home Shops guy?
Yes.
He's a nice guy, eh?
Yes.
Yeah, good guy. Good guy. We like you, Chris. You're okay, Chris. But anyways, he was insisting that I should have a Facebook page for my railroad, my ANLS railroad, and I was dead set against it because I already got enough to do. And so it's like I can't even imagine, Joe, how you keep all this straight.
It keeps me busy. To kind of finish out the conversation on Train Masters TV,
right?
We finally got to the point where we got Bob Fallowfield spun up as well.
Oh, really?
So we've got Rick Green and Bob Fallowfield. So now Bob hosts Notch 8 and DCC Decoded. So we've shot a couple of Notch 8 episodes, and we've got the first Notch 8 episode, new virtual Notch 8, up on Train Masters TV. And then we've got another Notch 8, excuse me, that's still in the can. And then I'm spinning up to, in a few weeks, to shoot a DCC Decoded with Bob. We're going to talk about all the ins and outs of how to deal with turnout frogs. Live frog, dead frog, frog juicers, tortoise contact throw, micro switch. What do you do to power the frog? And
there's just
different recommended best practices. So
you guys have a ton of information. I mean, like anybody out there that's looking for any information about anything should just immerse themselves in the model railroad hobbyist world, because between that and Train Masters TV and your Facebook page and your what's it called, second section, or what is it called? The running extra, and all the stuff you do, like holy man, and there's and a lot and so much, not so much of it. Like I'm looking right now at the latest issue I'm looking at the November 2021 issue of Model Railroad Hobbyist. I'm kind of mad at you right now, Joe.
Oh yeah, why is that?
Because I was going to make this like a 20 minute segment, and just because I have interviewed like Jason Schron and Tony Cook and Gordy Robinson and Shane Wilson of Scale Trains, and I was going to have like a show with like 4 or 5 people declaring the state of the hobby. But this has been really interesting so far, and it's now starting to turn into a show, and it's kind of like, well, now where am I going to put this? So I'm actually quite perturbed with you right this minute, Joe.
Oh, sorry. Right. So to summarize,
I got a all right. You summarize first, and then I'll go. You go first.
Okay. So to summarize, there's a lot going on in the online space, and it's changing. So as far as the hobby, we're moving from socializing at live events to learning how to socialize online, and I see that staying. Meaning, live events will come back, but we'll have a lot of online events now, and I think the live events will be curtailed somewhat. They won't go away. They'll come back, but there'll be a lot of online stuff now.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? And don't you? All right, so tell me honestly. I mean, I've been talking to this now for years. I mean, this podcast, not mine, our podcast, is 7.5 years old almost. We've been doing it for well over 7 years, and I mean, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger every week. Wouldn't you say that, Bruce? It just gets bigger and bigger.
It does.
Yeah, and now you and I look like twins.
Mm-hmm.
We got to
It's scary.
We got to take a picture of us just standing side by side.
We're gonna have to get you a flat cap.
Don't you think that is just a fabulous idea of you and me taking the portable studio and interviewing Lex Parker at his home?
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
Oh my goodness gracious! I get so excited about that. So, Joe,
And you came up with that on your own.
I know. Yeah, I know. No help whatsoever. I just woke up bolt upright in bed one morning and went, "We got to go talk to Lex." So Joe, we've been talking about this for years, and I feel like I've been beating on this drum for years. But don't you think the hobby is because of social media and the fact that we can all connect online? Don't you think this hobby is absolutely going to explode, and we're all going to be covered in model railroad goo?
Yeah. I'm amazed at how easy it is to go on YouTube and find lots of young faces talking about model railroading.
That's huge. We got to talk about that. You are 100% right. That's what people don't realize. What people don't realize, now I'm going to get on a soapbox. What people don't realize in the hobby, like I have started my campaign of my slogan of model railroading, it's younger than you think. What people don't realize, there is a tsunami coming of young people that are on that are young. And when I say young people, I'm going to say under the age of 34 and a half. There is a tsunami of people, young guys that have found themselves, and girls, young guys and girls that have found each other. I mean, I was talking to Josh Clark, who is NS Modeler number 24. Thanks, Seth. Seth Gartner set that interview up. I mean, one of his best friends now, he found on Facebook, through Facebook, and they're both model railroaders. And then my buddies John Caffarelli and Cam Neely, they found each other on Facebook. A couple of one guy was in Chicago, the other guy was in Indianapolis. And these guys are finding each other when before they could. I'm telling you, this hobby is going to absolutely explode.
Yes, that is the absolute truth. And
are you ready? Are you ready for the explosion?
Well, we're trying to be in the right place at the right time. And, if you look at our numbers, for instance, our YouTube site, we have like 30%, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 20 to 30% more subscribers than Model Railroader does on their YouTube site. Yes. And we have something like 60,000 likes of our Facebook Model Railroading MRH page compared to 30-some thousand the Model Railroader page. We work really hard to put regular content up, and we get a good following because of that. So whereas for a print publisher, like it or not, print is their main focus, even though they recognize there's a digital component to that now. But for better or for worse, they tend to treat the digital side as an also ran, and it's not their main focus. With us, digital is what we do, and that's our main focus.
Right. And you guys are. So I started to say, I'm looking at the November 2021 issue of Railroad Model Hobbyist. And on page 68 is the story. Let's see, or maybe the story starts on the next page. Hang on. What's this called? Yes, Extreme Weathering by Nick Campbell. Man, yes. This is a great article. Like every time I open this magazine, there's just chock full of great articles, like constantly. I mean, how can one guy produce this much editorial copy in a month? Well,
a lot of it is thanks to the contributors that we have. regularly contributing content. I couldn't write it all myself, obviously.
No. But
we got some great modelers sending us content. That's a big part of it right there.
Sure, but still, you still got to go through, like you say, all the photos, and you got to do the copy editing and all that stuff, and it's still, and you got to decide which articles you want, and Patty's got to lay it all out. It seems to me like it would just be a massive job every month. Like, do you kind of wake up? Like as soon as one goes to, you're as soon as you're done with 1 month, you're like immediately you got to start on. Like, do you ever get any time off?
We do, but we basically have to schedule our time off,
right?
And yes, you're right. For instance, this week, we moved to the middle of the month. There's a long story as to why we moved to the middle of the month. But it basically makes it easier for us to get the content from advertisers, from vendors, hobby vendors, in an issue quicker by moving to the middle of the month instead of the first of the month. It just has to do with when they release stuff. So anyway, this week now is we're preparing to release the December issue on December 15th, and the January issue is already in flight. It's been going for a week now already.
Okay.
So
you kind of work on as you're finishing up one issue, you start on another one.
Yes. But what that means is if we didn't do that, we'd have to be pedal to the metal for about 3 weeks just before an issue gets released. But by starting early like that actually gives us the ability to take a day off here and there and go do something else. And it doesn't hurt the schedule. See, so basically what I'm saying is we build in enough buffer that, like, for instance, I can take a couple of days off for Thanksgiving, or we can, take Christmas, the 24th and 25th off. We can take, the 31st and the 1st off. We can take those days off, and it doesn't hurt anything.
Okay. When you take the 20, do you take Boxing Day off?
Which day is that? I know that's a Canadian thing.
It's the day after Christmas Day.
Okay. No, we generally don't.
We
generally take like the 24th and 25th off.
All right.
Like Thanksgiving, we took Thursday and Friday off.
Have you got all your Christmas shopping done?
Yeah, we made an interesting decision as a family this year. Only the kids get presents. The adults don't get presents.
But you're going to get your wife something anyways, right?
Already did.
Like she's going to have something to open on Christmas morning?
Yeah.
Attaboy. Yeah, don't go down that slippery slope. Maybe she thinks that the adults aren't getting presents, but don't get caught in that slippery slope. Make sure you always get her something. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't get anything. Just make sure she gets something.
Right.
Be careful. Just be careful.
Of course, with the kids, the kids, we're talking, little kids.
I understand.
Not the grown-up kids, right? But the little kids, you can spend $5 on them, $10, $15 on them, and get a whole pile of presents for them, and they're as happy as can be.
Well, that's like my when my son was born. I've told this. I don't know if I've ever told this story on the podcast, Bruce.
We'll find out.
Yeah. So when my son was born, he's born in late October. So his first Christmas rolls around, and he's like two months old. And so, of course, Grandma's like buying him. And I'm like, don't buy him nothing. He's 2 months old. He doesn't even know what his toes are yet. And then, we roll around to the following year, and he's like a year and 2 months. And they're loading up on, and I'm just like, get him a pot and a wooden spoon. He'll be thrilled. Like, it was only like till it went, I was like dead set. Like, don't start spending money on this kid till he's like 2, until he at least knows what's going on.
Right.
So for the first couple of years, I didn't, it was a pot and a wooden spoon. Here, kid, knock yourself out. Okay. So what else? So I'm getting I can't tell whether you're happy with the direction of the hobby. Like, you think the state of the hobby is good, because on one hand, you're saying sales aren't that good for model railroad hobbyists and Train Masters TV. But on the other hand, it sounds like you're thinking the hobby's growing. So where are we at here with the old MRH gang?
Well, because we're the third tier, we're the not the core of the hobby. We will always be playing catch up as far as the stuff that people buy.
Right.
We try to price it well, and don't get the wrong idea here. The sales aren't terrible, but they're not great either.
Okay.
Like for instance, last year we had a bang up Christmas season, and even though we had a 75% downturn, this is 2020.
Right.
And we had a 75% downturn in the spring when people panicked because they didn't know what the future was going to hold. And then they finally, it's almost like there was pent-up demand come the holidays last year. And so we had a bang-up Christmas season. So for 2020, we ended the year 1% lower than 2019. So we were almost right on the money compared to what 2019 was. We were 1% smaller. That was all in terms of the sales. So we were the year was great. This year, however, I think we're probably going to be a little bit more than 1% smaller than 2020, but it's not going to be a huge amount, 5% or something. So it's not that it's terrible, but it's not setting any records either. But the traffic levels are setting records. So the free stuff, we're getting a lot of eyeballs looking at stuff. So ultimately, I have to believe that, once things turn around and, inflation settles down and things kind of calm down a bit, I think there's a lot of pent-up demand.
Now you were doing a lot of books and stuff like that. Are you still doing books or?
Oh yeah, I have a book series I've been working on. Run Like a Dream.
Right.
First book, Track Work, has been out for a while. Second book, Rolling Stock, has been out for a bit as well. And now I'm working on the third book, Locomotives.
Oh, all right. So,
and I'm expecting to release that in 2022.
All right. So we can take from all of this that you are positive about the hobby. You think it's growing like crazy because of the technology that's available and the fact that everybody can connect so much easier. And but the magazine business is the third choice for people when they go to spend their money. Man, I don't think anybody should make running extra a third choice. I mean, this your whole magazine is really well done. And I'm looking at this thing, a preview of this Notch 8 thing. It's Bob. He's growing a beard, so that might be a problem.
Yes, that could be.
He's talking to somebody about photographing prototype structures. Who's he talking to?
Rick Sutton.
Rick Sutton. Okay. And where does Rick live?
Rick lives in Southern California.
All right. So the quality of the video is spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Like, wow. Like so did you say, so obviously Bob has some really good equipment.
And Rick has some good equipment as well. So we worked with Rick to get him set up with the equipment that he needed to be able to shoot this video. And, he also trained him on how to do screen captures on his computer.
Right.
And stuff. So a lot of what he's showing is stuff that, he took the photos and then he loaded the photos on his computer. And so now he's flipping through the photos on his computer, giving examples, talking about the whole process. And so he pre-recorded some video where he went out and did a structure in the field,
right.
Photographed a structure in the field. And then we also have Rick and Bob in their respective locations. And so we had a conversation where they said, okay, we're going to watch this video. And so then we watch a little bit of the video, and then they'd break in every now and then, and they would say, okay.
Okay. How come Bob doesn't have like a headset? He just is using those earbuds. Is that audio good enough?
Well, he has a lav mic also.
Okay. He's got a lav mic and he's using those. Look at you.
He's got the black Emirates shirt and the lav mic that disappears into the shirt.
Look at that. Do you have a lav mic on now?
No, I don't.
Did you not think this podcast was important?
Oh, I do think it's important. But like I said, when I record QAT for Train Masters TV, I use this laptop. So I know what the audio is capable of doing.
All right. Yeah, it actually is pretty good audio. What? All right. So now let's talk about the future. Then I'm going to let you go. So what is in the future for? So everything lives under the umbrella. What is the corporate name for MRH? It's like, because you got Train Masters, you got Running Extra, you got MRH. What's the umbrella it all lives under? What's the name? Just MRH?
We are incorporated. It is incorporated as MRH Media LLC.
Okay. So MRH Media has
MRH Magazine, Model Railroad Hobbyist Magazine, which includes Running Extra.
Okay.
It has the MRH Store, which is where we sell all of our videos and books.
Right.
Both ebooks and paperbacks.
Right.
As well as DVDs and downloadable videos. And then we have Train Masters TV, which is your internet streaming TV, all Hulu, Netflix type videos. So,
you're being awful quiet, Bruce.
I'm just enjoying listening.
All right. How do I sound?
Marvelous.
Okay. So what do you see? What's coming up then for 2022? For MRH Media LLC.
Okay. Well, we've got our locomotives book that's going to come out. As I said, we're spinning up more segments for Trainmasters TV. We now have the virtual backshop clinic. We have virtual DCC Decoded. We have virtual Notch 8. We've got Mike Confalone who models the Allagash. He's actually going to do an extensive walking tour of his layout on video.
Wow, that'll be cool.
Put that on Trainmasters TV. So he has the gift of gab, and he's also a superb modeler. So we're going to get to see his whole layout from one end to the other, and it's probably going to be several segments.
You see, he's got the gift of gab. Now, can you put in a good word for me with him? I'm not sure. I don't think he's sure of exact. Some people kind of think, that Lionel guy, I'm not sure about that. I see you got Lex Parker's ON3 layout on here. Oh, cool.
Yes. We're also going to be featuring Charlie Comstock's Bear Creek and South Jackson as a layout tour. And
wow.
It'll be the full-fledged Trainmasters TV treatment, which is we have our voiceover guy do voiceover, and we kind of weave it into a story. What we do is we look at each layout and decide how could we boil down the character of this layout? What's unique about this layout as compared to any other layout? And so then we weave a story into that. So like the last one we did was Bob Truax's Great Northern. And Bob comes from a lumbering family. And, so we weaved in a lot of the story of also, he loves the Great Northern. So we weaved in the story of the Great Northern Railroad itself. So for the first 10 minutes or so of this layout segment, we did a history of the Great Northern with vintage footage and, and all of this sort of stuff. And then weaved in how Bob's family and the love of the lumbering industry led to him being interested in modeling the Northwest and the Great Northern. So, and Charlie will work something that's particularly specific about his Bear Creek and turn it into a full-fledged story. So the idea is it's with those sort of things is we try to make it entertaining. So even sitting down with the family, they would enjoy it. It's like, oh, that's interesting. So,
right.
So we're doing one of those stories on Charlie. He's local, and he let me come over and not use a mask. So
you didn't wear your Richard Nixon mask over there?
No, I did not. And also coming in 2022 is we're going to do another layout build. We did a Toma layout build several years ago. And
right.
It was a complete series on how to do a layout. So it was a layout project layout. So we're doing another project layout in 2022. And we're doing it with Greg Baker, and he's going to build a couple of modules, and we're going to go from soups to nuts on the whole process of, and put staging on it and everything. So,
all right, I got a question for you, and Bruce, I want you to partake in this discussion.
Okay,
please and thank you, if you don't mind. We had a great discussion with Gordy Robinson, which will be coming up in the future, probably in an all-star variety hour. And we had a great discussion with him. He's the president of the NMRA. And there's that whole train show do you remember the train show in 1986 in Boston?
Mhm.
Okay.
Joe, do you remember the NMRA National in Boston in 1986?
I remember, yes.
Yeah, and then the train show is a complete disaster.
Yes.
I think Gordy, as the president of the NMRA, has to bear some responsibility for that. Don't
You do.
Yeah. That's what I'm pushing for, anyways. I feel like the vendors and the manufacturers should receive some sort of restitution from the NMRA. Like send them a lobster or something, or a bowl of clam, or bowl of chowder, as Bruce said.
Chowder.
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 Your bowl of chowder.
Okay.
A cold bowl of chowder. Yikes. So, anyways, we had this great discussion with Gordy about the community of model railroading, and he's got a lot of great ideas about what he wants to do to help the NMRA create the community of model railroading. And I'm interested in your thoughts on like that. Don't you think that this is what's really going to become part of the forefront, is creating this community that's just getting better and better as each day goes by?
Yes, I certainly agree with that. There's the whole social side of the hobby, and I think that's really important. And let's. I don't think we've even begun to really leverage what is possible with all of the 21st century tools we have at our fingertips to be able to build a community.
I know. I don't think we've even scratched the surface.
And I think the other thing is there's so many people out there doing so many different things. It's hard to find out who's doing what, where, and it needs a focusing point somewhere.
Yes, that's an excellent point, Bruce. See, that's why I wanted you to be part of this discussion. That's what we need, is a focusing point. Very good.
Yeah.
So, as MRH Media LLC, do they have any kind of plans in the future to try to promote the community of model railroading?
Well, we're certainly going to be doing more live sessions now that we've kind of figured out how to do that, and to amp up the quality of the live sessions. I don't know that we can do this by ourselves, but I would like to see more high quality virtual events like the Santa Clara virtual NMRA convention was done. And I don't know exactly what that might look like completely, but I certainly am in favor of it and want to continue to contribute to that.
Right.
And, I don't know. Would we have a MRH Day event? I don't know, but I'm certainly thinking about stuff like that.
Yeah. I think you should think harder on that, because I think that's the future of the hobby, is the community of the hobby. I think more than ever, the community of the hobby is going to become the focal point of the hobby, and I think this podcast proves that. I mean, we've done that. Yeah. I mean, Bruce and I have stumbled our way through this thing over the years, and I mean, neither one of us are professionals.
Right. Well, since you've talked with Gordy,
you didn't have to. You didn't have to agree so fast that neither one of us were professionals.
Yeah, you could have given some reflective pause for thought.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Since you've talked with Gordy, I've talked with Gordy too, and one of the things I think that really holds a lot of promise is to figure out how to create a richer vendor experience in a virtual environment, on an online environment. Because, if you think about it, going to one of these trade shows and, I'll go to an NMRA train show, national train show, and I'll see maybe a couple, at the entire event, there's maybe 2,000 or 3,000 model railroaders. We're talking serious model railroaders. There's a lot they'll open to the general public, and you'll see a lot of mom and dad and the kids in a stroller,
right,
on the weekend. And some of those may have some passing casual interest in the hobby, but generally you don't get a lot of serious model railroaders out of that. So anyway, I will go to this event, and if I take a full entourage with me, I'll have 4 or 5 MRH staff go, and you consider that they're flying in from all around the country, several $100s a plane ticket, round trip ticket for each. Put them up in a nice hotel that's usually at least $100 a night, and then we'll pay for the booth. We'll ship all of our stuff there. By the time you're done, it's thousands and thousands of dollars to attend one of these events to reach a few thousand model railroaders.
Right.
You do a virtual event, I won't spend anywhere close to that. And potentially I could reach tens of thousands of model railroaders with that, anywhere on the planet, literally. So,
right, yeah.
So the return on investment of a virtual environment done right is huge.
Yeah, it is. It is huge. It is huge. But you still got to make that. I mean, I think it's still important to. I mean, the key is, I think what happened, and also as far as the train shows, the mom and pops going to the train shows, I think that's what's happened during the pandemic. Is a lot of people that were fringe model railroaders have now immersed themselves much more in the hobby, and will probably stay in the hobby now.
Right. Well, there's certainly, I think we need face-to-face events. You can't. It's hard to replace face-to-face completely with virtual. You just can't.
Right.
And the illustration I used is that when I would work with somebody in my day job, way back when, and I would get on a video call with them, or I would have a phone call with them, and then I would actually go to their location and visit them. I only had to do it once. After that, I could have a virtual session with them, and I immediately connected like I was there in person. Right. But I had to be there in person one time to somehow get that level of connection so that the virtual became just as good.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's where having some face-to-face makes the virtual better too.
And I mean, the opposite of that is happening now. I mean, there are so many people that I have yet to meet face-to-face that I have become close friends with through virtual over the last year and through the podcast, not even just the last year and a half, but through the podcast. I mean, I can think of, there's James Henry and Scott Lister and Don Iris and Dave Abeleys and, just there's all sorts of people that I've made friendships with that I've never met in face-to-face in person, because you have this opportunity to see them while you're talking to them.
Right.
So anyways, yeah, it's all right.
Well, it's going to flip the other way too, I think. So what's going to happen is, because you're getting more and more options for virtual events, then I think people are going to be much more selective now about the face-to-face events.
Yeah.
It used to be, you went to train show and swap meets, and, you just constantly do this, go there, do this, But now, because the virtual events can satisfy a lot of the need, you're going to be real selective about which in-person events you actually go to. And so that's going to by itself naturally prune the in-person events down.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see it's fascinating to see what's going to happen now in the future with this hobby, because I don't think anybody really has any idea what's going to happen in the future with this hobby, because the St. Louis RPM, man, it was a massive hit. They had a really good attendance. People are just itching to get out there. I think, it's just going to be fascinating to see. So don't tell us if you don't want to. So I know you've told us before about the circulation of MRH. How's it doing these days?
It's doing pretty good. It's kind of plateaued off in the last several years. Even though we get a lot, we get. What's been interesting is there's typically a winter peak and a summer drop off. What's happened is the peaks are higher now in the winter.
Oh yeah,
and the summer drop off is smaller, meaning it doesn't drop off as much, so it's flatter than it used to be.
Okay.
So like, the way we compare our stats is we do them year over year, because that's the real comparison, because there is such a seasonal cycle to everything. So as the pandemic hit, year over year, we hit all new peaks. So we're somewhere right at around 100,000 in terms of winter when we peak. So that's a pretty good number.
Yeah, it is a good number. One of the best things. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and then in the summer, it would drop quite a bit. We'd get down in the 50,000s in the summer. But recently it's stayed strong. So it's more like 70,000 in the summer instead of 50,000.
Yeah, I think that's because the hobby's going to become more of a year-round thing. I think more people are going to come to it. I think I don't think we have any idea what the future holds for us. I don't think any of us should try to predict it, because I don't think any of us have any idea what's coming for us, because it's all new territory. I mean, really, it's like I always say, I started the podcast thinking, this would be fun. I like to listen to how I sound. And I know a couple of dozen guys will listen to it. Here I am 7.5 years later and almost 750,000 downloads. It's like every month it's 10, 15,000 downloads. Every week it's 2,000-3,000 downloads. The thing gets downloaded like every 2 minutes or something. It blows me away.
Yes. That's pretty amazing.
It is amazing, especially when you figure all these people are listening to me. Don't you think so, Bruce?
Oh, absolutely.
You've been awfully quiet in this, Bruce. I'm concerned.
No, I'll chime up on that. I was just, right now people are trying to figure out the technology, how to blend everything together. As Joe made a point about, physical events. I've heard and read about a lot of NMRA members who are getting more action out of their division activities now, and since they've gone to a Zoom type meeting, they're getting regular meetings and getting to see more people and meeting more people. And the same thing, the operations SIG, they have I'll check. It's either once a month or twice a month. They have what they call a second section, where they'll have a couple guys give talks and things like that, and they'll get over 100 people in for that, and they'll put it online later. But so it's
Right.
it's certainly a platform that lends itself to getting more content out to more people than driving an hour and a half to some church basement and seeing the regular 15 guys you see at your division meeting before. And
the virtual convention that I attended, the virtual Santa Clara convention that I attended in the summer, it was like 3 days. And the other thing is I could actually continue to work on MRH while attending the convention, which I can't do in a face-to-face convention. So, I would literally be working on the magazine, and I'd have my iPad sitting there with a clinic going, and so I'm listening to the clinic, and I'm every month when we're working on articles, I'm often doing some modeling of something that I'll take pictures of and stick in the magazine somewhere. And so I'm working on a modeling project for something that needs to go in the magazine, and I'm also attending the convention. The other thing that I noticed is that if you're like on the East Coast, and this was a West Coast convention, and, you could actually come home from work, say at 4, which is 1 o'clock, 1 p.m.
Yep.
On the Pacific Coast. So you can come home from work and you could attend the clinics from 1 p.m. to, when they close it, whenever, and as late as you want to stay up. And so you could attend basically a third to 2/3 of the convention and still hold your day job on the East Coast. So there's just so many things that you could do that I wanted to attend that virtual convention and to see how it actually played out. And I started to find a lot of things I could do with the virtual convention and also do other things in my life as well. and still go to the convention. So it's like, wow, there's just so much flexibility here that I just don't have when I go to an in-person event.
Do you know how many people they got registered for that convention? Like, any ideas of the numbers?
I believe it was somewhere between 500 and 1,000.
Holy mackerel! I didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah, they broke over 500, and then I think they broke over 500 before the event, and then I think once the event got rolling, people were saying, "Wow, this is really cool. You need to see this." And so they got several hundred more people. And
it wasn't overly expensive, but it wasn't free. It was like $50 or something, wasn't it?
Right, it's $50. Yes.
Yeah. So now, when you don't have the Santa Clara virtual convention and to listen to in the background when you're working on models or the magazines, what else might you listen to in the background while you're working on models and magazines?
YouTube videos. Maybe I'll listen to an occasional podcast.
Oh, okay. Do you have a favorite podcast?
What's it called? Something life, something.
Yeah, it's all about your life. This is your life in model railroading.
Right.
All right. I think that's it. I think we covered it, Bruce?
We certainly got a lot of stuff down and out.
Yeah. Anything else you want to tell us, Joe? Or you got her all? Or I think we did another good job. It's another. We've buttoned up another year.
Yeah. Well, just as the hobby in general, I don't think dead rail is going to go anywhere for several years.
Okay.
I'd like to see it hit mainstream sooner, but I think there's just too many things that need to happen for dead rail to really battery, what I prefer to call power on board.
Right.
Because you may not want the rails to be dead necessarily, but power on board, battery powered trains, it's already here in the large scales, large stuff, G scale. But yeah, before it reaches HO and smaller, it's going to be a while yet. I'm thinking 5 to 10 years at least.
Yeah.
And it's funny you bring them up. I remember, a number of years ago in one of the Owen 30 annuals, somebody had written an article about dead rail saying how wonderful it was. And at the same time said, nobody should ever try doing this at their home. You have to hire a professional to do all the installation stuff because everything's so, dangerous and things like that. So like on one hand, they're saying how great it is. The other hand saying, you can't do it at home though.
Yeah.
Right.
So somehow they got to get their story straight about what can and can't be done and not tell everybody who might be interested, say, no, you got to hire somebody to do all your installs for you.
Right. The big bugaboo that nobody talks about with dead rail is recharging.
Yes, exactly.
Do I have to crack my shell and replace the battery? Do I have to stick a battery jack in the locomotive somewhere so I can plug it in? And then before an op session, my layout, I have 60 locos. So do I have to imagine trying to charge 60 cell phones before you do an operating session?
I have enough trouble charging the one I got.
So the whole, it's fine if you got 1, 2, 3, maybe half a dozen locomotives. But once you get much past that, the whole recharging thing becomes a real logistics problem. So, and nobody really talks about that. So it has a scaling problem right now.
I think that's it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and then the last one is the whole 3D printing thing, which
that's back
keeps coming on stronger and stronger every year.
Yeah,
and it's going to reach the point where it doesn't matter what scale you model in.
Yeah, well, that and laser cutters. I mean, our buddy Tom Jacobs, aka the Queso Cowboy, the greatest nickname in all of AML land. I mean, he has a 3D printer and a laser cutter, and he's making all kinds of stuff. And our very own Bruce, the moderately agitated mailboy, he has a 3D. I think Santa might be bringing him a 3D printer.
Well, the boxes in my closet are an indication.
Yes.
Well, you haven't been looking to see what you're getting, have you?
Well, I have to go in and get a shirt now and then, and there's this box from Myers Elegoose in there, and it kind of looks like it when in the wash kit. So we'll find out.
The whole thing with digital photographs and like these craft cutter machines, like a Cricut or
the Cricuts and stuff, yeah,
silhouettes, yeah, that's a common thing too. you can. Lance Minheim has been a big proponent of that as well, and Rick Sutton regularly posts stuff on our MRH forum of his modeling that he's doing with basically photo lam techniques and Cricut, and it absolutely blows you away. So there's gonna be more and more of that.
Bruce, we got an interview coming up with Lance Menheim and Tom Klomoski and William Sampson. So we're try to write down somewhere. We got to ask Lance about the Cricut thing.
Cricut. Like Bobby Girlsville Cricut? No.
Yeah.
Photo lam modeling, yes.
Right. Like bad joke crickets. Photo lam modeling, is that what you call it?
Photo laminate, yes.
Photo laminate modeling. Well, we'll have to photo. Man, that's a mouthful. Better write that down, Bruce. Put that on the whiteboard.
I'm getting a little sticky note right now. I'm putting it on my monitor.
Cool.
So yeah, but yeah, I think we've pretty much covered it.
All right. I was just looking at for some reason or other. I think I misnumbered Tony Custer's last podcast segment. I wonder why I did that. There's going to have to be changes. There's going to be heads are going to roll.
I'm pretty excited to bust the knuckle.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty excited about the next year for MRH Media LLC. You got lots coming on, and it's exciting. And if you need me to host something, I will host. But I am not getting guests. I'm not buying crap. I will host. I'm more than happy to be the guy that keeps the conversation moving.
That's fine. And for our hosts, I all the equipment that Bob and Rick use, I supplied them. So yeah, you don't have to buy anything.
All right. I wasn't going to buy nothing. Yeah. Okay. That's it. Okay. What's your name again? Joe. Can you please, could you say Subway chimes go with enthusiasm?
Subway chimes go with enthusiasm?
Subway chimes, like as in...
Subway chimes go with enthusiasm. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, do it now.
Subway chimes.
Go.
Subway chimes.
Go.
Subway chimes.
No, it's Subway chimes go. That's the phrase.
Oh, Subway chimes go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Subway chimes go.
Okay, so that was Joe Fugate.
Yes.
Well, first it was Shane Wilson of Scale Trains, who joined us for Christmas, gave us his view on the future. Then our buddy Joe Fugate of Model Railroad Hobbyist. And neither of them spoke of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
But again, we didn't ask them about it.
That's true. That's true.
I wonder if we'd asked the question and maybe they would have said something.
I was shocked that there was no mention of C.W. McCall either.
Yeah, exactly.
They obviously didn't listen to the introduction before they started their interview.
Yeah, but maybe we should do the intros first now, shouldn't we?
Yeah. This is what the intros are going to be. You give them
it'd be like Carson doing all the interview first, then doing his monologue,
Yeah, we'll give them the Cole's notes of what the intro is going to be about, and then take it from there. Give us a mention. So, you started to tell me that you found out about the Trans-Siberian Orchestra because your friend...
a friend who lives, he actually lives up in Wabashin, not far from where we are in our neck of the woods. And he has a collection of up around somewhere 2,000 pieces of vinyl and 700-800 CDs and things like that. And for the last 7 or 8 years, maybe longer, he's been doing what he calls a musical advent calendar, where he'll go through his collection and pull out various Christmas songs. And it's an eclectic selection. You get Burl Ives, you get Bing Crosby, Trans-Siberian Orchestra was one that he threw up this year. I bugged him for years for the Barking Dogs from Dr. Demento Jingle Bells, and he finally caved and threw that up there for me just to shut me up.
So what is this? Is this an is this a virtual advent calendar?
Yeah, he records from his selection. He's got his turntable and his CD player and everything set up and records off them, and puts his videos up on YouTube.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to check it out, his name is Ken Roach, like ROACH on YouTube, and you can find his stuff. He's interesting. He's a guy who builds his own amplifiers just for fun.
And how did you find him?
How did I find him? I found him because he used to be involved in live steam, like number one gauge live steam. He had a loop in his backyard, and I was up there a few times for that. And then, through talking, I found out he's into electronics and stuff. And he's been a big help with me getting my stereo up and running again and checking things out and
all right, time out.
Doing that for me.
Time out. We got to give him better clues than just Ken Roach, because I plugged that into YouTube and I didn't get anything other than Bill Roach from Coronation Street.
Okay, let me.
Don't fall away from the mic or move the mic with you.
I should tape it to my head.
Yeah, tape it to your head.
Yeah.
Remember, if the ladies don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. Use that duct tape. Okay, I can.
I'm going to look under a name he used to go as.
Oh, yeah, it's an alias. Are you sure it's not Kevin Marks?
No.
Who used to be Kevin Morosky, which I think is a great name, by the way. Maroski, I believe it was. You're being awful quiet now. You got to learn to.
I'm efforting to find him on YouTube.
Okay, and what kind? Should I put in? I'm going to put live steam behind his name. See if that comes up. Ken Roach live steam. This is riveting podcasting. This is like the number one rule that you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
No, it's still nothing. Are you sure you've got a friend named Ken Roach?
I'm making it all up
on YouTube. Okay, well.
All right, let me. Okay, there's one other way I know we can find him.
Yeah, while Bruce is doing, Bruce is moderately.
While we're doing this, let's do something else.
Yeah, while you're doing that, we'll do something else. I'm going to remind everybody again that at Springfield we go to a hockey game on Friday night with the Lehigh Valley something or others. Phantoms.
Lehigh Valley Phantoms.
The Lehigh Valley Phantoms this year are playing the Springfield Thunderbirds. So Springfield is the team in Springfield, Massachusetts. Springfield Thunderbirds. Last time there was a Springfield, we went to a hockey game. We had a ball. There was about 18 of us.
They played the Hershey Bears last time.
That's right. And so this year we bought 27 tickets. I think there's like 6 or 7 left. So if you want to go to that, make sure you send an email to amlhostess@gmail.com.
Right.
And at the other end of that email is our very own Tracy Boyd. And if you want to go to the dinner on Saturday night we have enough room for like 50 people. I think we got like 25 or 30 for that already.
Wow, there we go.
And so we have a dinner on Saturday night at Cal's Wood-Fired Grill. It's $32, and there's like 7 selections of entrees, a couple of desserts, salad. So it's not like banquet food.
It's not a buffet.
No, it's not banquet.
Oh, no, and they've got good food. We've been there a few times. They've got excellent food there.
The food is really good. It's not banquet food. It's restaurant prepared food. You have a choice of these 7 entrees. I think there's all sorts of things. There's steak and fish and this and that. The next thing, there's a pasta. There's a meat. There's a fish. There's a this. And there's a that. So that's what we're doing. So if you're interested in either of those things, the dinner on Saturday night at Springfield, or going to the hockey game with us, which is a ton of fun,
or both would be an option. Right?
Do both, because we have a lot of fun. Just send.
Now, rumor has it our hostess is planning some, shall we say, sort of shenanigans.
Well, I don't know. I think Tracy likes to have a lot of fun, so I suspect it'll be more than just. I suspect Tracy will do something, but we don't want to put any pressure on her.
We don't want to put any pressure on her.
No.
We'll find out come the night of the event.
She's helping to keep track of all who's coming, so we know when to say that we're full and things like that.
Excellent. Well, great.
Did you find anything?
I did find my friend.
Okay.
And he still go by his old name on YouTube because Facebook made him change his name. If you look on YouTube under Tight As, it's TIGHTAS. TIGHTAS. And the last name is Canbe, CANBE.
That's nothing like Ken Roach. Tight as can be. Tight as no, I'm not getting it. TIGHT, the word tight. TIGHTAS.
Right. With a space.
A space.
CANBE.
There it is. There it is. And then he does an advent calendar.
Yeah, and he's been doing that for a number of years.
You know what I was when I was listening to the Joe Fugate interview. We talked about me maybe hosting some of his videos, but he has Rick Green hosting his videos. He has Bob Fallowfield hosting his videos.
Yes.
Can't he find anybody south of the border to host his videos? Why does he only have just Canadians hosting his videos?
That's a good question.
I know, it's a great question.
No, it's, we're known for good quality entertainment.
All right. Well, let's get out of here. We've bored everybody to death with a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. So if you want, go look up Titus can be, and he's got all sorts of Christmas tunes up there, and plus also all sorts of neat stuff about. He's restored some pinball machines, and he had an electric car one time. He used to drag race. He does all sorts of cool stuff.
Doesn't get a lot of views, but he does a lot of cool stuff. 46 views, 41 views, 47 views. I guess it's just for
but he usually just throws it up on his Facebook page and people go. So unless you're looking around, I don't think he goes out of his way to advertise the thing.
Okay, right, okay. So can you give out our email address?
Yes, our email address. You can please send us some electrons at Modeler's Life, modelers with one L, modellerslife@gmail.com.
And we have a website, amodelerslife.com, and if you go there, you can just click on a picture of the moderately agitated male boy in a particularly agitated state, and boom, your email is automatic. All you got to do is fill in the text. And if you want some AML merchandise, you can just go to Midwest Model Railroad, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com.
Exactly.
Scroll. They've got a new website. Works really well. Scroll across.
Their new website is an amazing thing to get around, isn't it?
Yeah, it works really, really well. And you got to have a good website these days.
Exactly.
Although, you know who has a great... I was talking to Stephen Atwell coming up sometime in the new year.
Yeah.
And we got talking about AccuRail cars. Boy,
yes.
They have a ton of cars. And they're because I asked him, what does he sell the most of? Of all the things, what surprised him the most of all the things he's sold since he's gone into business for 10 years? Started with 400 square feet in his basement, now has a 15,000 square foot shop in Independence, Missouri, which, by the way, is a surprising, what do you call it? A thing that comes with when you do something. You build it and they will come. Basically, every time the shop gets bigger, he gets more walk-in traffic.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
It's cause and effect.
Cause and effect. Lately, I can't come up with words. I think this podcast is going to get continually worse and worse. My favorite Christmas song is Gene Autry, Here Comes Santa Claus.
There you go. That's another classic.
Man, could that guy sing? Gene Autry. Oh, my goodness gracious.
Yes. The ever-famous singing cowboy.
What's your favorite Christmas movie?
Christmas Story. Little Ralphie and his BB gun.
That's a very popular.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Yeah, that's a very popular one.
I've got the DVD. We haven't played it yet this year, but the boys and I used to watch it religiously several times each season and knew it and the dialogue off by heart. And Gene would just kind of look at us going, But anyhow, when my middle son was in high school, he did utter the fudge word in class one time and got told by the teacher to write a note of apology. So he comes home and said, "Dad, I need to." What happens? Well, I said, "Well, and me being the helpful dad. Well, let's do it on the line of A Christmas Story. We talked about fudge, except he didn't say fudge. So anyhow, that was the dear Mr. Whatever. I apologize for saying fudge, except I didn't say fudge, and went through the whole thing right from the movie, and he didn't get kicked out of school or didn't hear anything else. So apparently the teacher had a bit of a sense of humor.
Well, that's good. I see you were a good example too, eh?
It was.
Another
here's what we'll do, Matt. See, we'll do this. Oh yeah, okay. And of course, we had the dialogue down perfect. We didn't need to research it at all. We pretty much had it right down. So
offshoot.
Yes,
that's what it was. An offshoot. Okay. An offshoot of every time these stores got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right, okay.
An offshoot was that I was talking to him when another interview coming up in the new year. And he was saying that every time they get a bigger store, they get more walk-in traffic. And I'm thinking, it's in the same location. Why would you get... And he says he has no idea either, but they get more walk-in traffic whenever the store gets bigger.
Well, there you go. I guess people figure, oh, he's got a bigger story, must have more stuff. Better go see what's going on.
Exactly. So Gene Autry's mine. I love Here Comes Santa Claus. Here comes Santa Claus. Man, could that guy sing? Gene Autry, could he ever sing? Holy mackerel. All right. And what else do we got to talk? Oh, yeah. And because this is on the free channel, if you've loved the intro and the outro of me and Bruce.
Did we tell them about the AML merchandise on? No, we got.
I think that's how we got. Well, yeah, we got to the new website.
We talked about the new website. Then we never got to go over and click on.
Yeah. So if you go all the way to the right of the navigation bar and click on AML, boom, you are in a wonderland of AML merchandise. Hats, hoodies, mugs, T-shirts, anything you could possibly need. Boom, is right there.
Exactly.
So, and if you've really enjoyed this rambling of the intro and outro of this show of me and Bruce trying to...
and I can't imagine who wouldn't.
Who wouldn't.
Maybe Rob Diary, but then again, he came back.
We've described a YouTube channel that has 22 views on its videos. We've talked about the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. We found out that C.W. McCall of Convoy fame was the mayor of Ouray, Colorado from 1988 to 92.
Well, we found out that Billy Mummery is still alive.
We found out that Billy Mummy is still alive. How old was he? I didn't see how old he was. Hang on.
He said he was your age.
Oh yeah, he's my age, 67. So he's still got a lot of time left kicking in him.
Oh, exactly.
So I think that's it. I think we covered a lot of really important information.
Yes.
And so anyways, yes. So if you've enjoyed all this useless information and you'd like more, you'd like twice as much each week, for just 365 easy payments of 16 cents a day, you can get on the Patreon channel and you can have 2 podcasts a week, a free one on Mondays, and the one that's on Tuesday is for Patreon members only.
Wow, what a deal.
And our very own Kaylee Zhang refers to that as the Antics channel.
Yeah. Can I mention another advantage of being a Patreon?
What's that?
You get to participate in the Patreon members' Wednesday night chat.
Yeah, you seem to be enjoying that quite a bit lately.
Yeah, when I remember it's on.
Yeah.
You just say, oh, man, I missed it again.
Yeah. Well, and so I got to send out the... I have to send...
Send out the invite.
Yeah, send out the invite. All right. And now we've killed enough time. Oh,
perfect.
Look at that. So Billy Mummy is only 2 months and 16 days older than me.
Well, there you go.
I could have been a child. I could have been on Lost in Space.
Yes.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So remember, A Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
musical advent calendar YouTube providers.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of A Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late-night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
That's a mouthful. That was a mouthful. Musical advent calendar writers.
YouTube providers.
YouTube providers. Oh, okay.
Yes, because he does it on YouTube.
All right. YouTube providers. Nice.
Yeah, well, there you go.